Welcome to Brand Runner, where we discuss marketing trends and tech. Today we talk about immersive marketing and virtual reality. Everyone is talking about this as the next big thing with the context of Web3 and the metaverse, but feels like it's still in the early stage. To discuss this topic today, I have a special guest on the show, well, extra special because it's my own twin brother, Sébastien Hameline. Thank you for doing this. So I'll do a quick intro. So while we both ventured into film production, you eventually came to specialize in virtual productions and its evolutions into XR. I remember you already being involved at the very beginning with camera houses like Radiant Images, which were still figuring out how to patch together a bunch of web cameras with custom rigs. But by now you've pretty much worked with any 360 cam and headset on the market. You specialize in live action imaging capture for immersive productions, XR, VR, AR, MR, as well as photogrammetry, which is a technique to get measurements and 3D models from photos. You've been involved in cinematic narrative, documentary, training, corporate, some of which was shown at international festivals such as Raindance, Tribeca, South by Southwest. And you're also part of the very selected few to have captured multi-camera live concerts in VR for high-profile musical acts such as Muse, U2, Kiss, Major Lazer, and Phoenix, to name a few, some of which spearheaded interactive experiences in the metaverse. I will put your links in the show notes for those wanting to see some of the cool VR projects you worked on. And I won't lie, it's a pretty impressive intro. To put some context, I guess on this episode we won't dive too much into the technical aspect of XR and VR, as I would be more interested to discuss the state of VR today with you from a consumer's viewpoint and what brands are doing with this medium, or should they use this medium in the first place. As you're in the mix of all this and involved in a variety of high-scope projects, you must have a very good pulse on what's going on and in the world of XR. So maybe I'll start with a very general question. Where are we at with VR today? How much has it evolved since you started? Maybe you can share 2-3 milestones that really made you say, wow, we are passing a new level, and what it means from a consumer standpoint.
Think of that earlier, and I think one of the milestones is when I did not have to explain what VR meant. Like when somebody asked me, what do you do? And I would say I work in VR in 2015, 2016, which is still recentish. VR has, had different kind of waves, but really 2015 is when I really started that. People didn't really know what VR is, and I had to explain what VR was. And so it's always a kind of an ongoing discussion, but as the format evolves. But I think the one of the milestones, actually I have this headset in the back, and one of the milestones is when the Oculus Go came out, which is this guy, which was kind of the first headset that was affordable, that somebody that wanted to spend $200, $250 could get the hands on a headset, because before that it was really very specific to developers or gamers. And so until the headset came out, it was kind of it was not as accessible. So accessibility with the entrance of the Oculus Go was definitely a milestone in that sense, because people were able to access some of the content, some degree of gaming without having to spend thousands of dollars to get there. So there's that, and there's also I think from a capturing standpoint is also the release of different dedicated camera systems that were designed to capture 360 video, because until maybe 2016 you would put GoPros together or any sort of camera together and stitch them together, but they were not meant to be capturing that kind of content. So once those kind of camera came out, the quality level went up, and I think that was one of the drawbacks. The early drawback is people would put a headset and it didn't look really good because of the limitation of the technology, either display technology or the capture technology. But 2016, 2017, we started to see more technical advancement that allowed us to capture content that actually looked okay. So definitely that was a few milestones. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question you need answer for, but that's
No, cool.
definitely.
I think like when you have to stop explaining what it is, and it's a great rule of thumb to keep the pulse on what people actually know about this specific industry.
But I think also talking about because you mentioned the consumer point of view, and I think the consumer doesn't care about the headset or the camera you use; it cares about the content. And so I think early on people didn't really know why doing something in VR or why not. Because the format itself is still very new. Making a film in VR is not really the same thing, at least for live actions. VR is not just live actions, there's games, there's all sort of experience, and also maybe we'll talk about it later because Meta Connect just happened as well. So there's a lot of different things happening in that small circle, but at the same time it's a growing format that goes outside what used to be just a passive experience. But yeah, the content is really important. So at the beginning, I think people didn't really know. I worked on product like this in 2015, 2016, where I would show up on set and I wasn't sure why they were capturing this in 360 or whatever the format was, because the content itself was not thought as something different than traditional rectangle, as we call it, amongst our peers. So definitely there's also an evolution in the type of content being produced and the reason behind putting so much effort to create that kind of content. And also maybe something you want to not mention, but like 2019 was a lot of like 360 content, VR 360 content, but there's also a popularization of the VR 180 3D formats across all type of headset.
Maybe you can explain what 180 3D is, because some people might not know.
So VR 360 is being able to look all around from a static point, as if you are in space, and you can look up, down, you can look behind, as if you were anchored in a place somewhere. And so live action 360 is basically a film where you can look around and explore the space from a static point. The VR 180 is the same idea, except instead of being looking around, you limit it to kind of a 180 degree field of view. But I think the trend now is VR 180 3D, so you're getting in headset when you're experiencing content in headset that has been shot in VR 180 3D or that's been produced for that format. You can look around and you also perceive depth. So it's like thinking of like when you go see Avatar at the theater, but it's a different type of experience because the 3D, how you're experiencing 3D, at least for me, especially with glasses, how you're experiencing 3D in a theater with glasses and how you see it in headset is a bit of a different perception. But those are the difference.
Is this different from what you mentioned, like on a different discussion? You talked about the 6 degrees of... Help me here.
It's 6 degrees of freedom is a very different topic, because 6 degrees of freedom is the ability to explore space not from a static point. Meaning that earlier I mentioned 360 was you're in a static place, you're anchored in a place, and you can look around. 6 degrees of freedom, 6 degree experience that enable 6 degrees of freedom allows you to walk in the space, explore with the space. So it's not just a film, it's 3-dimensional, or it's more than 3-dimensional really. You can explore the space, and often you have interactivity component, which makes the experience interesting as well, because now it's not passive, you're actively participating in the experience, you're exploring it. Maybe there's a call to action to do something in the experience that allows you to progress, like a video game. So 6 degrees of freedom experiences are more kind of like video game, but with the advancement of, you mentioned photogrammetry earlier, which is basically the technique, to make it very quickly, a technique that allows you to digitalize an object or a space into a 3D model. And once it's a 3D model that you can use in a headset as an asset, if it's a space, well, now you're in let's say I scan my apartment, I do a photogrammetry model of my apartment. In headset, I can walk in that space and that headset can be in China or wherever you want it to be, but it can also be really interesting for places that you and I cannot go, like the pyramid of Egypt, or like places that people cannot go to. They can explore it in a photoreal reconstruction in headset, and the whole 6 degree of freedom allows you to do that, to explore the space.
Cool. And like all those different types, like you talk about 360, you talk about 180 3D, you talk about 6 degrees of freedom. You can access this type of technology with any headset, or you have different headset for different type
really
of content.
I think the experience itself and how it was designed, because nowadays those headsets, especially the white ones, the Quest 3, Meta Quest 3, it's called a standalone headset, which means that you don't need to be connected to a computer to do stuff. You can use it connected to a computer, but its main purpose is to be standalone. Experiences that are 6 degree of freedom, or that you can explore the space, which are basically like a video game, they are developed like an app. So they're published on the headset app store like an app, and so you can have access to, like for example, there's one of the first that you're talking about Milestone earlier. One of the first experience I saw like that in headset was in the Quest 1, the black one. It's a experience called Home After War, which was really interesting. It's documentary style experience, but it's not a film. It's sort of a film. It's about a house that got bombed in a country in the Middle East, and the house had been created as a 3D model. Like somebody came in the house after it was bombed, and somebody did a reconstruction in 3D of that photoreal reconstruction in 3D of that house. And while you're exploring the house means that with the controller you can either walk, or you can point somewhere you want to teleport to, and you can look at the wall over there. You can look on the first floor. You can visit basically that house. The owner of the house, who has been shot in 3D, is telling you the story of what happened that day. And so that was really interesting, because that was merging all those formats together into something that's tells a story. So until then, it was very like you would hear photogrammetry, you would hear VR, you'd hear all those buzzwords, but until they put into a final product that says something, it's all smoke. So that was a really cool experience. Don't remember why I'm telling you about this, but there you go.
So it's a good segue to my next question, which is actually a two-part question. So producing VR content can be very pricey, notably because of post-production and having to stitch seamlessly multiple cameras. And I'm not talking about like entry-level Insta360 project where the software auto-stitch everything, but at the same time it feels like mass adoption has not happened yet for headset. And I will give some numbers. I will put the source in the show notes. I read that AR VR headsets are expected to increase by 44.2% in 2024, reaching 9.7 million units, and by 2028 the market is projected to grow to 24.7 million. Versus mobile phones, where we had 7.2 billion of the world population as mobile phone users, and that's like 90% of the entire world. So the first part of the question is, who is it for? Who consume VR today? And the second part is, when do you think we'll get to mass adoption?
Tricky question, because it's kind of a chicken or an egg, or the egg sort of thing. For example, a lot of the products I work on that are produced by Meta to go on Meta headsets, they are a lot of music acts, and so clearly I think the train of thought is finding acts that have social following, that through analytics that has a good amount of followers to draw them and to draw them into watching content in headset and creating content that they want to watch. So there's that, but there's also a lot of use case for content that brings people to a headset, not because it's a novelty, but because it's a need. So you have a lot of, for example, application for healthcare, a lot of retirement places. I've done work with companies that create experiences for people that have PTSD. So reacclimating people that have had a trauma, or reacclimating people that comes out of incarceration, and get them used to be in society, you know. So a lot of the people watching VR is those people too. And there's another kind, which was it is also, you know, I was in France earlier this year for an experience I produced, immersive experience, not VR, but talking with people there, I realized that there's a growing audience that goes to museums that will see VR in places of education, because museum will do like an add-on on whatever exhibition they're doing in VR. For example, I went to when that festival finished in Paris. I went to see an experience that was made for Notre Dame, and so you can visit Notre Dame when it was built. Well, you can witness the construction of Notre Dame, and then you can explore it at the time. And it's really interesting. So there's also you know, all sort of like educational audience that is consuming VR for on location based experience. So it's not only people that have a VR headset that consume VR, it's also people that will go to an exhibition, people that will go to see a movie and they have an experience that will promote a movie that's going to come out. They did a VR version of it. So all those kind of on location based alternative.
But I don't think this is what I would call necessarily mass adoption, because those are the cases you're mentioning are very specific use case, right? Educative, re-education, academic use, research. I know there's also like a case for like in medicine, medical industries and stuff, but those are like standalone. Like they will buy a few, they will do the research behind, do the development, like the technological development behind. Like, oh, let's do a surgery with like a VR headset. I remember like when I consulted for like the Mount Sinai Hospital back in New York, they do this type of thing. They use VR within their own facility for those type of usage, but it doesn't, like from a business standpoint. Like if you think about Meta, who their goal is to sell. One of the goals is obviously to sell the hardware, sell the most headset they can, and in the context of installations like promoting a film. Doing like a medical application, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 headsets. It's not like, oh, we're going to sell like 60,000 units or whatever, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
I think on one hand, yes, you have the content, like you say, like the music, the live music stuff. It's like, okay, let's find the content, let's produce a type of content that can be consumed in a different way to connect the audience better, and then it justifies the audience to purchase headsets at scale, not 1 or 2, but like, you know, like think about Imagine Dragons or U2 or like, you know, those guys. I don't know how many millions of people are following those type of bands, but even if you think of like 10% of the fan base that will purchase the headsets just to get the experience, then it's a win, you know. And then there is the whole discussion that we'll talk about in a few minutes, which is like the implication with Web3, the next generation of social media, the metaverse and all this, which is, you know, also a different topic. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about, you wanted to say something?
Yes.
Right, Razi?
I was going to talk about, because you mentioned, you know, you talk about the mass adoption, and I think for a while, and I think it's probably still the case, one of the barrier for the mass adoption is putting a headset on is an effort to bring an audience, somebody that want to watch something in a headset. It needs to be a very particular type of content, especially if they don't have a headset, they're not familiar with the UI. It's a little bit of a process, and when you see it in location-based type of experience, it's a little easier because you have an onboarding experience. Somebody will tell you what's going to happen, how to deal with it, but people don't really want to put the headset on spontaneously, you know, unless you're already in the field or you're familiar with it. So that, I think the device itself, the bulkiness of the device can be a little bit of a barrier. There's also a limited amount of like high profile quality content, so I think that's also a problem. And that's something actually Meta talked about at the conference. But something interesting is with Apple Vision Pro. Apple Vision Pro is the headset that was released a few months ago by Apple. It's not a VR. They don't call it a VR headset. It's a spatial computing device, right? A spatial computing headset. You start to see people walking in the street. Maybe it's a bit gimmicky, but it's interesting because it has not happened before. Before that, people are kind of shy to have a headset, right? There's that sort of feeling that you're putting you in a box and somebody are watching you being in the box, right? And so with Apple Vision Pro, you start to see people taking the plane with it, walking in the street. You saw those videos, people driving their Tesla car. So there's a slight step forward, even if the Apple Vision Pro is definitely not a mass adoption type of headset because of its price. But definitely there's in sort of the social acceptance of being seen with a headset on, that kind of that did that first step forward that I think you didn't see before.
I don't know if it was
a baby step.
I don't know if it was a behavior that was expected. When Apple released if they were like, some people are going to walk in the street. I understand, like, you use it in a plane,
sure,
use it in a coffee shop.
Maybe I don't know if it was expected, but when you try it, you understand why people feel okay with it. And the reason is because until the Vision Pro came out, when you're in when you were in headsets, you were in a virtual environment. You didn't see through. There were no pass through. Pass through is when you're in a headset, you can see how there's those little black things on the camera, on the headset there. Those are cameras. So pass through is the ability to see in your surrounding while you're in a headset. So the Quest 1 allowed that, but it was just in case whenever you get out of your the zone sort of thing, like to prevent you from hitting a wall or something. But the Apple Vision Pro, they developed the whole UI interface that you can decide if you want to see through it and see around you and see the people that are next to you, or if you want to be immersed in a virtual environment. And also on the Apple Vision Pro, they designed that thing where you can see the eyes of the person wearing it on the headset, that the people outside the headset can have eye contact with the person wearing it, so you don't have that social disconnection between the person not wearing the headset and the person wearing it. So I think, regardless that Apple did not expect those behaviors of people wearing it in the streets, definitely how they designed the whole experience of the headset experience definitely contributed to people being at ease and accepting it socially more than any other headset before.
And do you think the release of the Apple Vision Pro is a milestone, or you think it's their version of a headset that is just maybe better than the others? Or
I think it's a milestone because especially after watching Meta Connect not too long ago, you can definitely see that Meta, the last update for the Meta Quest 3, definitely, I don't want to say mimic because I don't think that would be proper, but definitely they were definitely inspired by what Apple did with their headset, because now with the Quest 3 you have that constant path. You can decide if you want to see through it or not. They also have the hand tracking that feels a little bit like the Apple Vision Pro, where you can drag things. I mean, Quest had the hand tracking since Quest 1, but how it feels on Quest 3 now feels definitely closer to what the Apple Vision Pro did. So I definitely think that Apple entering the game definitely raised the bar and kind of inspired everybody around that they better hurry up and catch up.
Yeah, it seems it's always the case each time they release a new product. Talking about MetaConnect, maybe you can share some what's your three main takeaways.
Three main takeaways. They're releasing Quest 3S, which is basically a cheaper version of the Quest 3, slightly lower resolution, but still can do a lot. It's basically replacing the Quest 2. I think it's going to be $300 for the Quest 3S. They announced the Orion glasses, AR glasses.
We'll get to it.
I guess we'll get to it later. And a big thing they talk a lot about during the conference was AI with Llama 3.1, I think that's the version. So I feel like AI, I mean, they definitely talked more about the AR glasses and AI than anything else. But those were the three takeaway. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's talk a bit about brands. Can you share any projects, yours or others, that you saw where brands use VR in a cool and innovative way?
So I haven't seen brand recently. I did work on one project a while back where it was for Coke. It was in Mexico, and we mixed 360 and 2D, and that was with a big Latino singer artist. You know how all the Coke commercials are very musical, so that was really cool. It was supposed to be ad based. Don't know what happened at the time. Probably was 2017. There's a lot of projects I did. We don't know what happened to them, especially with music. And I see it now more than ever. Like dealing with music licensing on all those projects. Sometimes they don't come out just because there's too many people involved and things just don't come out. But Coke was definitely a really good project. I know Gucci did quite a few campaign in 360. I don't know if they've done them recently, but they definitely did quite a lot of work. I did one for somebody that worked for Supima. Supima is the companies that provide cotton for like fashion brands. So I guess high fashion is one of them.
I remember a while back you worked on like a film promotion thing for Pacific Rims, like.
That's right. Yeah. I went to Australia for 3 days, and I went on the studio and shooting sort of like BTS VR content. We also went into one of the pods. Pacific Rim is like a robot movie, like kids operating a robot, and so we shot one scene inside the one of the robot. But talking about movies, I did a really cool experience last year for The Boys for Amazon Studios, and so I went to Toronto. And we did panel photography. It's called HDRIs, high dynamic range images, in panoramas, in different spots of a bunch of different sets, and that became an interactive tour of the sets we did. And so it's web based, and so it's web XR, I guess.
So this you don't need a headset. You don't necessarily need a headset. This you can access anyway.
I think it's available on your phone, and you can like a virtual tour you would see for real estate. You can explore the set. You can touch there's a TV. You touch the TV, you see a fake TV spot from the film. If you're familiar with The Boys, there's a bunch of those like very grotesque commercial that makes the TV show so good. So there's a lot of like interactive component implemented in that virtual tour. So that's recent, yeah.
What do you think of the added value? What do you think the added value is compared to, let's say, investing in more traditional media, whether TV or online stuff?
I don't think those XR experiences. I was going to talk about because we use that abbreviation VR, and a quick not reminder, but. Going back real quick on the Meta Connect conference, not once they mentioned VR, right? That appellation VR kind of has exceeded a little bit the trend. So I think VR is shifting in a different phase, because now we see. I mean, we talk about XR. XR is kind of also generic, because XR is extended reality. It include AR, it include VR, it include all the Rs, but that term immersive experience, which is vague, but at the same time it's accurate, because seeing an experience in a headset or in a dome, or seeing an augmented reality experience on an iPad, all those experiences are immersive experiences. So I think when the brand invests money to develop content that's immersive, it's not just VR, it can be all those I just mentioned, but also it's not there to replace the traditional 2D content. right? It's about the experience, and it only worth it, I think, if the experience create a buzz about it, because it's unique, and because, for example, an experience in headset, well, you can't really describe what it is. You can't really describe what's a VR experience in a headset until you put. I mean, you can try, but really, it's a subjective point of view, right? Like describing my point of view from here, I can tell you what it is, but the best way for you to see it is to sit in that chair and look in the direction. And so the VR experience is the same thing. You need to put it on, and so if an experience that is in a way that makes it the only way you can experience it is in the headset, that's what the value is, because now you're gonna have a bunch of people that are gonna be talking about, about this experience. You need to see it. It's like a really good movie, except you cannot see that movie on the TV or in the theater. You need to go either, if the experience is available on a headset, see it in a headset. But I feel like brands, they usually do those experiences for on-location activation, right? Because I think the device, like the barrier of the device, still is a barrier. So having it on location and having people supporting the onboarding experience and making sure people do what they need to do to experience the best way they can remains the best way to guarantee that the product is seen how it was designed. And then if the experience is great, then people talk about it.
You think, like, when you say immersive, because you say yes, XR, VR, you don't really use those terms anymore. You think when you say immersive experience to like someone in the street, he understands that you're talking about headset? Because you can also
Not necessarily.
Because you can also say like, I've watched this movie. It was such an immersive movie. It's like shot like first-person shooter, etc. So how do you make the difference?
Well, you're right, because you mentioned metaverse, and metaverse is the same thing, right? It's a word that has been abused, I think, by multiple trends, and so everything today is metaverse, and so immersive too is the same thing. How do I make the difference? I'll usually specify. I'll specify it's an immersive experience in headset. At least there's no miscommunication, because
it reminds me of like Tupperware. Like Tupperware were the first to come out, at least on the mainstream, with those system of box. And now, like any type of box you put in the fridge, my mother used to say like, no, it's in a Tupperware in the fridge, but it's not the Tupperware / the brand. It's just a box. And metaverse is the same. When you talk about abusing the term, originally it's something that comes from the book by Neil Stephenson, who wrote Snow Crash, and he coined you know that book? You heard about that book? No? I
know about that book, yes.
Yeah. So he's the first one who coined the term, and then Meta took it just from a branding perspective, and now, like you said, everyone is calling the next generation of Web 3 and like virtual worlds and all that stuff. They all call it the metaverse, but it's a stretch. So let's jump to the next topic. So this will be a little bit of an overlap with something we discussed before, but I will ask you anyway. What do you think are the most innovative ways to use VR today? Any specific industries or new use to come that maybe we didn't talk before? Well,
I think the most innovative way to use VR or immersive experiences are useful experiences, right? Experiences that serve a purpose. And definitely I feel like healthcare, however vague it can sound for people that are not familiar with this kind of experiences, I think definitely that's really compelling. I was reading an article not too long ago about, actually it was on the French website, and it was not French, it was Swiss. It was Swiss, and they were talking about experiences that they were distributing in hospital and retirement places for example, people that do dialysis, when you have to spend 3 hours on the bed and they kind of take your blood out and bring it back because your kidneys are not working properly. So patients were saying how beneficial it was for them to be transported somewhere else while that's happening, because it's not a pleasant experience, obviously, and it's long, and some of those people are obviously older. So I think that's pretty innovative to have found a way to make some people's life better because of the immersive ability of headset experiences. So that's really cool. When I went in France, I saw a Taiwanese VR experience, which was really interesting, where you're in somebody's body and you're exploring basically a bath house. But it was very artsy. It was very dark. It was very creative because you are experiencing something that's photoreal, but at the same time something that a place you would never go. So it's based on also the storytelling of the creators as well. Anything interactive in headsets is really interesting. Live action is cool because you're immersed in the space, but interactivity experience that allows you to explore things like you would in real life, and your action has an impact on the next step in the experience you are seeing. That's always really interesting.
Tu m'entends? Je crois que ça s'est déconnecté là. Tu m'entends?
Ah, j'étais devenu un petit peu flou.
Mais tu m'entends?
Oui, je t'entends.
Ok, bon, ça veut dire que ça enregistre quand même. Okay, hopefully it will record. Cool. So, let's jump to the next topic. So we're talking about the metaverse, and Meta has been acquiring all these tech companies. They even acquired Oculus a while back, and they just announced the Orion glasses that you mentioned before. Where are we at with that and the metaverse?
The Orion glasses are really interesting because they are, it's a prototype that's, I guess, not meant to be sold, but it's really, I think, a way for Meta to show where they're headed with wearable glasses. Yeah, I guess they've been developing them for 10 years, and I think talking about mass adoption, I think those glasses probably might be at least the next generation, whichever generation they'll put for sale, will be certainly more accessible if the price allows. I guess will be more accepted by the mass consumer because it's an everyday object people can wear. It's also have a lot of functionality because you can wear them and see through them, and like your phone, a little bit like the Apple Vision Pro, but in a more, I want to say, advanced vision, where it's going to replace your phone and more objects. You know how before you would have a camera, you'd have MP3 player, you'd have all those devices, and now they're all in your iPhone. But now I think with that kind of glasses, that kind of wearable, it's going to replace your phone. You know.
Yeah.
So and it's also an object of fashion, right? At least they partner with Ray-Ban for this one. So it's I think a transitional wearable, I guess, if we can call it like that. And then you asked me about the metaverse. The metaverse. Why? How is the metaverse related to that? Or what's your angle about the metaverse?
Like one of the reason Meta is developing those headsets and has been acquiring those companies is because they want to draw more and more people on their own platforms. And their next platform is the metaverse. So that's their ways of attracting new people. And, like the talk about the metaverse and...
When you talk about metaverse, are you talking about Meta Horizon, or are you talking about something else?
I'm talking about like the next virtual world by Meta, but also all the potential virtual world that we can have that might not be Meta and their own social media network.
Sure, like VR chat or Rec Room. I mean, I'm sure by the time the Orion glasses come out, they'll have developed a way to be able to interact with other, like the Meta Horizon and all those other social platform, I think. But that sounds like we're still a few years away before that's a finished product and accessible and in place. I think it was just a hint. And also I think Meta is trying to maybe encourage developer to work on their product and develop content, because that's what they're missing is content. So I think maybe talked about it a lot also for that reason.
Is there any project you worked on for the metaverse that you can talk about?
For I've lot of the recent projects I've been working on are a lot of live concerts in VR 180 3D for Meta Horizon. Meta Horizon is, I guess, the metaverse of Meta right now. It's basically a social platform where you have your own avatar. You can create like a 3D model of yourself as like a 3D person sort of. You can choose your face. You can adjust your nose, your eyes. You can put you can dress yourself, whatever, and you can interact in Meta Horizon with other people that have headsets. Hopefully they're your friends. Some people that you won't know, you also meet some people you won't know. But the point is, they have different sort of rooms. More than rooms, different world. And a lot of the content I've been working on the past year and a half is for Music Valley. Music Valley is one of the places inside Meta Horizon, and so Music Valley is different places for concerts basically. So you can go as your avatar, and you can tell your friend, hey, let's meet in Music Valley at 3 p.m. today. And you can go check the concert. We did a Sabrina Carpenter concert that's in there. You mentioned Imagine Dragons, that's also in there. So a lot of the concert in there I worked on. So that's kind of the main things that are in the metaverse, quote unquote, that I've been involved with.
And do you use the platform yourself? Like, are you an active user? Do you have friends there that you hang out with virtually?
I don't have friends. I actually got the Quest 3 not too long ago. I had the Quest 1 for a while, and the Quest 1 stopped supporting Meta Horizon, or Meta Horizon was not supporting Quest 1. So for a long time, I couldn't go in Meta Horizon. But the concert in Meta Horizon also showcase in Meta TV. Meta TV is basically their YouTube. It's an app inside the Quest headset, and that has all the video content from Meta, animation and films. And so you can watch the concerts that are in Horizon. You can watch them in 3D in Meta TV. So am I an active user? I'm not an active user in Horizon. And the truth is, you're talking about who watch VR, and none of the people that are actually in Meta Horizon, in the metaverse, a lot of the people I'm hearing are kids. So a lot of kids are in there and exploring and having fun and doing stuff. So it's also maybe, I don't know if it's a strategy for Meta, but those kids that are, maybe 10, 15 years old that are in there, in 5 years they'll be 20, and they would have grown. Some people have grown with the appearance of internet, and they will have grown with headsets in the same way that internet is part of everyday's life today. Maybe it'll be part of their everyday life in 5 years from now.
Any specific developments that you're looking forward to?
Specific developments.
Like any, whether it's technological or innovation, or like how people consume this type of content.
I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see what kind of content Apple will develop. And also talking about Apple is developing Apple Vision that's not Pro, that's supposed to be aimed for more, like, that's more accessible price wise, because one of the barrier of the Apple Vision Pro is by the time you get out of the store it's like $4,000. So I think they're designing a headset that's more accessible, but they also need content for the headset, otherwise what do you do? So I'm curious to see, because Apple is very careful with the type of content they publish, right? They curate everything. They don't let things go rogue, and that's why they took so long to release their own headset. So I'm curious to see what kind of production they're gonna get involved with. You can also already see some content. There are a few immersive pieces available in there, which are definitely really, really good, really, really high quality. They do close-up shots that you barely have seen in VR, if ever. So they're definitely raising the bar in the quality and the standard. And actually, if you take something that looks good in some headsets and you put in the Apple Vision Pro, it doesn't look as good because the Apple Vision Pro is so good. It's 8K per eye. So yeah, definitely having a new contender that's raising the standard is pretty exciting.
Something we didn't talk about is more from like a enterprise type of use, is like within the context of future of work. I think like with COVID and like growth of like work remote, then this is also an interesting use case, because more and more people will be using this in the future, like medium term or long term. Think about.
I think it's.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I think Apple designed their product, the Vision Pro, in that sense. I mean, they're not calling it a VR headset, as I mentioned earlier, but also they designed it as a productivity tool, and to some degree, I feel like Meta is also trying to kind of widen their perspective as well. Did you know that Monday.com has an app in there? In Quest?
No, I don't.
I'll send you a frame grab. I saw it today. But same idea is like, instead of being on computers, you can have different screens in the headset and work in headset. So productivity tools. There's also, I saw Microsoft PowerPoint thing. Don't have many good reviews, but it's aiming in that direction where it's not now just for gaming and watching stuff. It's also to work. So. Yeah. Any
last words you want to add before we close? Wise words.
Wise words? Well, I mean, that's just a very subjective opinion, but I definitely think there's a place for brands to create really engaging content, right? Because headsets give you a format that engage the audience in no other way, but it takes a lot of different teams to get a product that's very special, right? And so hopefully the brands can take the time to assemble the proper team and create really, really compelling content, because the technology is there, the display technology is there, computing is there. We can create assets that are visually really good. All the game engines are developed to work alongside what we do, so I can't wait to see more of that and be part of that.
Cool. Sébastien, thank you for doing this, and
yes, Fabien,
stopping by on the show. I will put your links in the show notes, and for people who are listening, you guys should go check it out. You don't have to be like a active user to check it out and enjoy this content, and let's do this again soon.